Nerd On the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio. It's kind of like the suspension of disbelief, but in a different form of like suspension of redeemable qualities.
Right. And I can't really.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Nerd On the Podcast. You didn't need, but you deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome. Whether you're an angel, whether you're a demon, whether you have the voice of God within you. Today. Most comic book stories we see nowadays have some sort of origin of a fateful tragedy that makes our protagonist someone we root for. In today's topic, sometimes that tragedy continues throughout their life, and the Word of God is what gets them through their new adventures. Today, we dive into Book 1 of the Garth Ennis Vertigo comic book that saw its live-action adaptation on AMC with Preacher. Preacher.
We all wanted
it's
to
Jesse
grab
Custer.
I want to grab a little man.
I have a donut. Tom probably has Batman.
This is Marth from
I don't know. I couldn't
Smash
see.
Bros.
I was just assumed it's Batman because
Anyway, before we
If
get
you know
into
who this
more
is,
explanation.
You get 10 nerd points.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Anyway, shall we get into the episode? I am Josh.
I'm Tom.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Corey.
And this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks, like you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears. You get access to secret channels on our Discord server that you get direct access to us and other members of the Nerd On Nation. You get early access on merch. There's all sorts of stuff that you get if you head on to our website or our Patreon, nerdon.tv/Patreon. It has a whole list of all the fun stuff that you get. And one of the cool things that you also get is what we call a Nerd On Nudge, which is on our other weekly show, the Nerd On Update. Listeners send in their questions that we answer. And if you're a member of the Nerd On Nation, you get your questions answered first. So do check that out, nerdon.tv/Patreon, and check out that Discord, nerdon.tv/Discord. And a huge shout out to our partners, Apogee, who have equipped us with the hype mic. I know I go on and on about it every episode, but I cannot recommend it enough. It's a wonderful microphone that allows us to keep creating the content that we do at high quality. And it's incredibly versatile. You can use it on mobile devices. You can use it on Mac. You can use it on PC. And we use it on pretty much everything that we do. All of our episodes, streaming, our video content. We use the hype mic. It's a wonderful microphone, so I do suggest checking it out.
PC is a potato. You'll sound real good.
Yeah. And they have our next partner, Odyssey headphones. Nice and comfortable. Sound wonderful. They don't feel like they're crushing your head. They're amazing, and I love them so.
You can wear them for 10 hours straight while editing something and not want to die.
Yeah.
Josh goes on and on about these as well. And if you'd like to stop Josh from going on and on about these and just listen to the episode, join our $8 tier on our Patreon, and you can shut him up forever.
Yeah.
That's actually true.
This is very, very true. Very true.
Never have to hear about him again.
But do check out them, Odyssey headphones. But yeah, that's the housekeeping. I'm really excited about this episode because I've wanted us to do this episode for a very long time.
Like more than 2 days.
And we kept going, no, Josh.
No.
And then finally, we didn't have a good reason.
I was saying, go fuck yourself.
Actually,
that's what I was.
I mean, I think
like Tom.
In our defense, it has been on the calendar for multiple times for several years. It just
it's been
something happens. Something happens.
Every time. We're like, we'll move Preacher again.
Yeah.
Like a spirit just, just takes over our body or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Almost like that.
Almost like that.
Not
quite, but close.
But this is a book 1, baby. So at the end of the episode, we are going to rate it.
So before we rate it, Tom, I read this because I happened to not have a paperback version. Could you tell others how they might be able to do something like that?
Well, let me tell you my favorite way, and that's also supporting Nerd On the podcast with nerdon.tv / the affiliates page on probably our website.
Nerdon.tv
Or nerdon.tv / comicsology.
Comicsology, you say? Have you never heard of Comicsology, you listeners?
Wow, I haven't. Wow.
If you haven't, let me blow your pants off with how the most wonderful page by page, panel by panel interface allows you to experience the best that a comic book has to give you. I'm telling you right now, if you're safe at home or if you're out in a park, isolated at least 6 feet away from people, and you're on your digital device, you can just tap on the screen, go panel by panel, and it'll show you exactly what you need to do. Or you go to the 2-page mode where you can see it just like a regular comic book, or you can just go to full page mode. There's so many different options, because I just named 3 of them, that you can just experience your favorite comic books or comic books you've never, ever read before. And that's nerdon.tv / comicsology. You know what I'm saying?
Tom could probably go for the entire length of an episode with his pitch, and you will
now you know.
kind of tune out and come back in,
and you still wouldn't buy.
If there's one thing we can rely on with Tom, is that he can talk.
I can make it last.
That is the
baby.
one thing.
I make it last, baby.
Wow. Okay. Anyway.
But as before that wonderful golden moment, everyone, all you clip that, baby, this is going to be something that we're going to rate at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
So our first 2 segments, we're going to start out with our first one, which is Guess That Grump. I don't know how the theme song is. I'm pretty sure it's probably just something tall.
His old grandma. And his grandma's so old and she crazy. She crazy. She trying to kill him.
So, if you're brand spanking new to Nerd On, welcome. This is Guess That Grump, which is the segment where we're gonna go around the digital screens that you should be watching on YouTube, and guess who's gonna have the lowest score from 0 out of 5, no matter how high the number is between us, because it typically is. The lowest one will be the Grump for the week. And since I always explain and never get it wrong, I'm going to go first and say that the Grump is going to be Caitlin.
Okay.
That's exactly what I expected.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Caitlin, go ahead.
Caitlin, who you got?
I want to pick Josh for the lulz, but I won't. I'll pick...
Because she can't pick herself.
I can't. I'll pick... Oh, yeah, red herring, y'all.
Red shirt, red herring.
This is actually kind of hard. I feel like I'm gonna pick Corey.
Ooh. Okay.
Josh.
No.
Yeah, who you got, Josh?
I write
it
down.
I take notes.
Josh will. Corey will do the also the special.
Yeah, I go last, so I can give the especial.
Especial.
I will pick
the Grump
Caitlin.
du jour.
Caitlin is my choice.
2 for Caitlin.
All right. Okay.
So Corey, before you mention yours, how can people get involved with Guess That Grump?
Oh, this is so cool. Do you like this segment of the show?
Whoa.
You want to be a part of it also? You could be the guesser, grumper, gator, grass-fed, gluten-free, Gatorade, grumper, Genesis. If you like, by joining the Nerd On Nation today, nerdon.tv / Patreon, you can join in and polls, and you get to guess. Let me give my vote is going to be for Tom.
J'accuse.
Yes.
And the Nerd On Nation has spoken unanimously, actually. We had a large number of turnout of voters. Congratulations for exercising your right.
Shout out.
And they have spoken, and it is across the board, Caitlin.
Can we have a recount?
Across the board.
Somewhere else you can vote from home, baby.
All the votes for
My
Caitlin.
raccoon and I are upset.
There is no
trash
secondary vote. So if you didn't vote, if you got it wrong and you only voted for Caitlin and someone else, then no shout outs. All or nothing, baby.
Shout outs.
All or nothing.
Wow.
So the way this is going to go down is it's going to go, Josh, you're going to give your score first because you had no votes. And then it'll be me and Tom and then Caitlin last.
Nice. Nice.
So that'll be the way.
I'm very excited.
I'm kind of excited too. This is an interesting one. And we're gonna kind of spoil it right now. This is gonna be spoiler free for the content of Preacher Book 1, but spoiler full of the Guests That Grump, because we are gonna go ahead and talk about our experiences, our initial reactions, and first impressions of the book. Josh, do you want to go last since this was your pick?
We can. Yeah, I can go last.
So go ahead, Corey.
So my first experience with Preacher was the TV show. This is not one of the comics I picked up.
There's a TV show of this?
There's a TV show on AMC.
Shout out to Seth and Evan. And the casting in that's great. So that was my first toe dip into Preacher. And I knew at the time that Josh was a fan of it because he had the statue.
He had the little man.
The little man. So this was my first time reading it, was actually for this episode. I had actually purchased the wrong one first. I purchased just the first comic instead of volume 1. And I was like, oh, this isn't as long as I thought it was going to be. And then I was like, oh, hold on, volume 1, got it. Not issue 1. And worked my way through it. It had a lot of remnants of like a Constantine type comic where it's very on the street level of things, right? There's no like headquarters, there's no this or that. It's just a group of these misfits going around trying to figure out what the hell is going on here.
It's not immediately God versus the devil.
Yeah. And so I had a very fun jaunt. You know me, I like dark humor a lot. I would say that it is my favorite way to deal with hard emotions is through dark humor. I think it makes everything better. I know it's not for everybody, and I respect that, but that's how I deal with hard things. So I had a wonderfully dark jaunt through this comic book.
Look at that jaunt.
A jaunty romp.
Yeah. So I'll say that jaunt. There. I'll leave that there, and we'll get into details later.
I'll go next and say this was first experience starting at the beginning of Preacher. I think Barry or other people have told me about Preacher and about Garth Ennis. And this kind of started the spiral of like learning more about Garth Ennis and what he believes in and also like what he likes. But so reading book 1, I'm going to give an interesting reaction and say, you know what? Wasn't a fan, but it climbed out and I was just like, and I wanted to get some more out of it. And I watched the show after I finished the book to see the comparison. And I will say, I like the comic book better than the show so far. And I'm like on episode 5 of the show. So I was just like,
I finished. I'm in 2nd season now.
Well, aren't you cool? Huh?
I am. I'm just saying it changes a lot.
Pretty cool. I think you're cool.
Thank you.
Corey is cool.
Kaylin? Okay, cool. Perfect time.
Is this going to be the qualm section or first impression section?
First impressions.
So
I don't think there's been qualm yet.
I didn't want to like this.
Whoa.
I didn't want to like it.
Shit.
Didn't want to.
I didn't want to. There was it. I immediately got the feeling where I got the same feeling that I got from watching some of Black Mirror. I don't like Black Mirror. Because it always shows like how terrible people just it makes me feel like there's no other option than for people to be terrible. Like that's what Black Mirror makes me feel like. It's just like everything's awful because of course it is, because people are the worst.
In the DC universe, it's called the dark multiverse. It's only the nightmare shit. It's never the good stuff.
Right. And I totally understand like what that is. It just doesn't really appeal to me.
Sure.
So when I was reading Preacher, I was like, oh no, it's going to be in the same vein of that. But the way that they went about it was kind of like, it dances more in the gray area of things. And I appreciated that a lot for, it is dealing with a lot of things that would make a lot of people very upset, but they do it in a way that's like, but if this was the case, would you not feel the same? So I feel like they have a very good balance of how they handled their. Sorry, what was that?
Relatability.
Yeah, they have a relatability about it, but it's also coming from people you really wouldn't expect. Like, I feel like you would more expect this kind of story to happen with, I don't know, more clean cut people or something. To like it's kind of the knight going off to fight the dragon kind of situation. You think of like a knight, someone in the shining armor who's going to go and fight the beast or whatever. But like
instead it's the cabbage man.
Instead it's the cabbage man, and he's going to fight the grandma. So they just handled everything really well, and I was very pleasantly surprised. So there.
So one might say you liked
it?
No, she didn't say it.
I did actually.
Got it.
Oh, she did.
Got it.
She said I didn't want to like it.
I didn't want to like it, but I did.
Joshua?
That's a new shirt.
Okay, boys and girls. No, just kidding.
Oh my God. Oh no.
I think I've talked about my buddy Buzz a couple of times on this show.
Shout out.
I was not into comics whatsoever. I had no experience with them whatsoever. And I met my buddy Buzz while working at Hollywood Video, and he was into comic books. The thing is that with comic books, I never was into specifically superheroes. It just didn't really draw me in there. And he was like, oh man, there are more comics than you think there are. And he was like, okay, I've got one for you. And he handed me book 1 of Preacher. And he's like, just read this and tell me what you think. I came back the next day and was like, I need more. So he brought the rest of all of the books and he gave them to me, and Why the Last Man. And he was like, you might like this, The Boys, like these kinds of things. He's like, you might like these 100 Bullets, like you might like this. And so, yeah, I ate up Preacher. Like I forgot how long it was when we were reading through it for this episode. I was like, oh shit, I forgot there is so much content. But I love that it was this story, I'm a big fan of like certain comeuppance when somebody gets their comeuppance. I like A Dark Stranger.
Revenge.
I mean, vampires. I just, it was such a cool story, and I just, without getting too far into it, it is my favorite comic series, I think. Like, it holds a very special place in my heart. I've been thinking about a lot whether it's my favorite, and it is between Preacher and Spawn of like, what's my favorite? Like,
I was going to say, favorite? I was like, everyone, I'm going to make Josh do the one thing he hates. I was going to say Walking Dead or Preacher.
Well, it's like Walking. Oh yeah, that's true. Like Preacher, Walking. Oh yeah, and Walking Dead was in that stack, just the first one. Why? And then I was introduced to Spawn later on. So it's like,
you're making David Barry so happy right now. Image, Vertigo, guys.
Hey Barry,
not superhero stuff.
Hey Barry.
Hey Barry.
But
run, Barry, run.
Yeah, this is in my top 5. So it would be Preacher, Walking Dead, Spawn. I love Why the Last Man too, but Preacher. Anyway, Preacher. That's what we're talking about.
I gotta check out Why the Last Man.
I got so much. Ian gave me a whole stack before the shutdown started, and I'm like,
brief synopsis and production.
Brief synopsis and production are the next 2 parts. So I'm reading the brief synopsis, baby. And this will be semi-spoiler free. It is the synopsis you'll find on Amazon. So don't blame me. Don't
at me is what the kids are saying.
Yeah. No, you can at me. I love you at me. Slip and slide, but just don't blame me. So synopsis. Merging with a bizarre spiritual force called Genesis, Texan preacher Jesse Custer becomes completely disillusioned with the beliefs that he had dedicated his entire life to. Now, possessing the power of the word, an ability that makes people do whatever he utters, Custer begins a violent and riotous journey across the country. Joined by his gun-toting girlfriend Tulip and the hard-drinking Irish vampire Cassidy, the preacher loses faith in both man and God as he witnesses dark atrocities and the improbable calamities during his exploration of America. I like how I turned into Mort Goldman from
and then Porky Pig
from Family Guy.
Yeah,
this exploration.
Oh
I have the retainers in my mouth. But, production, please.
Publication is Vertigo imprint of DC Comics, Sandman, Swamp Thing, and Hellblazer, which we're all familiar with. Writers: Garth Ennis, The Boys, Hitman, Punisher Max. I almost said IMAX. Look at me. Max.
That's all, folks.
Artist: Steve Dillon, Hellblazer, The Punisher, Judge Dredd, and Glenn Fabry, MTG Ravnica City of Guilds, which is gorgeous, by the way. Thor Vikings, and Daredevil Bullseye. Publication date was 95 through 2000. Series order, issues 1 through 12, is what we read out of 75 issues in total. Copies sold, estimated over 500,000 issues since 2018.
I would like to also point out that it is a multi-Eisner winning series.
There you go.
What are the Eisners?
Subtle drop there.
The Eisners are kind of like the Oscars of comic books. Like it's a pretty high esteemed award to get.
Caitlin has an Eisner book of mine, which she hasn't read.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we're done,
that was the move on sound.
And the production, we'll move to the meat and potatoes of the show, which is going to be our spoiler full favorite parts, favorite characters, our qualms, and then finally our rating. So who wants to pop off first favorite parts? Go ahead, Corey.
Corey does. My favorite part of this entire volume is Cassidy waking up in the body bag, asking the morgue attendant for a cigarette, and walking out of the morgue. That whole sequence of how is he going to get out of this trap? If he goes outside, is he going to burn up? So like, what's the way to do it? Pretend I'm dead. They'll put me in a body bag. I can avoid the sun that way. Get all the way to the morgue. I just thought that was brilliant because it was one of those things I couldn't figure out until I read it. I was like, how is he going to do it? Is he going to fight everybody? Is he going to hide and then attack them more? Like, is he going to do some Leon the Professional type shit where he like hides in the ceiling and snatches them? So it was a nice, unexpected for me personally, at least my experience. I'm sure people could have seen it coming a mile away, but for my experience, that was a nice exit. Creative. I thought it was more creative than just having him take them all on and drink blood and stuff. It
was a very character moment. Mm-hmm. Which is really cool. And I think those are, there's a lot of like what Caitlin's talking about. There's a lot of moments where the characters do things and perform actions that really tell you about the character.
I mean, really, really quick, like about Cassidy, what I like about him is yes, he's a vampire, but it's not always so in your face that he's a vampire. Like it's like that moment.
He's not always jumping off the Empire State Building.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there are moments where you're like, how is he going to do that? Like he could do the vampire thing and just slaughter everybody, but he's like, oh, I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. My favorite moment.
Interest in that, really?
Huh?
It's way too much work for Cassidy to kill everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I also did love that story about being there for the Empire State Building opening up on its first day. Yeah, that was cool.
My favorite part of this volume, and really of the entire series, I love the section of the story that's about Jesse Custer's upbringing with the eventual family getting the comeuppance. Like Angelville, just like it's just for me reading it again. I was just like, I was so excited. I'm a fan of when the good guys win, so to speak, and like Tulip not being dead, like that whole man. Like kind of like
the resurrection
and all that kind of stuff, and the grandmother losing her power. Like I'm just like, hell yeah, that's what you get. That's what you get. That's what you get. And then I dig it, and like her blasting off into space like on fire, like it's so good.
The thing, what I think also again to kind of Caitlin's talking about, like she really didn't want to like it because I think Caitlin has talked about it where ultraviolence isn't something that she looks forward to. Nope. But the book rewards very terrible people with an ultraviolet end, and so it feels very vindicating when they have committed these atrocities and then they finally get something in kind. It's very indicative of the Punisher's series, which I think you might like, Caitlin, then. That's the kind of the thing where it's like people deserve the terrible things that happen to them, where a lot of times we see innocent people get killed and it's like they're kind of just taken as cannon fodder. And it's like a little bit of Garth Ennis talking about like his I think it's funny that you were talking about that, Josh, where like you don't really like superhero things and Garth Ennis doesn't really like superhero comic books either, even though one of his major influences was Dark Knight Returns. And it's because it showed a humanistic Batman where he wasn't perfect and he was old and he was, human. Yeah. And like one of the quotes apparently is that he does not like, it's interesting. It's interesting that he feels very DC boy. Because he doesn't like Captain America, because he doesn't like this fantasy of what World War II was, of like there were real people dying in foxholes, and Captain America could just kind of come in and punch people. But
it's one way to look at it.
But he likes Wonder Woman, so it's like really interesting because she also came around that time too. And so like from what he said, he doesn't like how superhero comic books have kind of eclipsed the market of what comic books are. That there should be a little bit more in that. And so there is this sense of like the hero's return. And like there are moments where I really enjoyed where like their hope seems gone. They're like, they're not going to make it out. And then Tulip comes in, she removed the knife from her hand and she shoots somebody, or, finally God shows up and you're like, oh, I didn't know we were going to get this. But I think one of my favorite things in the book was getting closure on some loose threads that happened at the beginning of the book. And I don't say loose threads as like things that never happened, but it was like, here's the runner of the series. And I think if you read book 1, everyone that's listening, you will find a very kind of cinematic 3-act structure. Like, here's what's happening. Here's the second part of like, these characters this is what they're doing. And then here's the third part of like, what you're kind of like, why did Jesse leave for 5 years? What did Tulip do? Like, why is she on the run? What has she become? And I kind of enjoyed that aspect of the book because it was just like, oh, here it is, baby. Like, because it's not that I needed it, but that the characters kept asking for it. And so when you got that, I was just like, all right, now the characters are happy. Now we're going to see where we're going to go from here. And then it leads off where it's like, all right, what's the next issue? And so, yeah, the one thing I really did like was kind of like the pieces were starting to fit together. And I was just like, okay, baby, this is how it is. And that's why I was saying we're watching the AMC show. It was kind of like, here are the pieces and not in the places that you remember. And it's just I'm like, what is happening? So it's it's a very interesting, interesting experience reading both and watching it. So I'll probably go and watch the whole series and then I'll pick up book 2. Because any other favorite parts?
I mean, yeah, good. Tons. I already had 2. Does it? I don't want to take up the entire time. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Only because of like how shocked I was, but also at how much it made sense. Of the guy who's friends with Cassidy being a serial killer.
See,
creating his own story. He's essentially if Spider-Man were a bad guy.
Yeah. Yes.
It's Eddie Brock.
Yeah, there you go. I created my own story.
I just didn't. I like when he's like, sure, and like stabs her in the hand. I'm like, oh no. Like it was one of those things where like, this is absolutely gruesome, but it totally makes sense. So it was more of like I'm not like happy that it happened. I'm more of like, oh, that makes a lot of sense for this character. So I was like pleasantly surprised that he was a serial killer. That's a weird sentence to say.
No, I'll agree with you on that. Like that was one of my favorite twists in the entire first book was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now they all got to scramble.
It was just a very good twist. And they
all figured it out at the same time.
Yeah, they all figured it out at the same time. Cassidy was in immediate danger. Tulip was in immediate danger. Everyone was in immediate danger. And it was one of those things where you felt it. Like, it was a very visceral feel that like, oh no, like, what is going to happen now? And that's kind of what this whole volume was really good at doing, is like the stakes are very intense, very quickly, and you just like, you kind of almost can't fathom, because you're experiencing the same panic the characters are experiencing in that moment. And not only do you have like, this is messed up on a like human person level, then you also have like the supernatural, like this is messed up on a supernatural level as well. And the weird personal politics that go into all of that. Like I said, it dances very well in gray areas. So I think finding out like the serial killer twist and the Angelville twist, like that it's his family and that's what he's been running from the whole time. Those were like the, oh my God. Like it all makes sense now of why you were the one the Genesis like came to, why like you ran away, all the things that set off, and how it's uncovered this whole underbelly of everything.
That moment where Tulip was like, I was mad at you for no reason. And I was just like, that feels good. That feels good of just like, damn, he was really trying to be a good ass dude, you know?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where she, you know, if you don't have the context for why, then can't really be mad at someone for being mad because they don't have context for understanding.
Yeah, and I think that's what I liked about the book, is that like at the beginning they show you all these different things, and then they have this like, again, a runner of like what happened between these two characters and what put them in these circumstances. And it, to me, like you don't get the satisfaction, I think, what happens of like learning of why these characters are the way they are, if the first few issues didn't do that heavy lifting. One thing I really enjoyed is a bit to Josh's point of the comeuppance of listeners. Also, this is 1995 to 2000. There is a lot of language in here that would never be on pages nowadays unless you were
or story plots.
Because of sensibilities. But you know, derogatory terms for gay people and the N-word with the hard R is used a lot in it. But the people that use it, they get the
terrible people. They're terrible people.
They're terrible people, and it's interesting to see like why one person.
Yeah, that's true. No one's really a good guy in this thing.
Yeah, there are a lot of great, but then there's like, in particular, the detective who is just. Has anyone seen Sex Drive?
Yeah.
There's James Marsden's character, and pretty much the same thing. Is just an angry, closeted person. And it's very interesting to see that kind of unfold. And like, to me, that was like the first thing I was like, I guarantee you this character is closeted. Because there's
actually
like this
fun fact. James Marsden was cast as Jesse Custer at one point for a movie adaptation.
Oh, is this the Kevin Smith version?
The more you know.
Yeah. Or no, I don't remember what version. There's been multiple almost films, but James Marsden was attached and said he had no idea what to expect. But when he picked up the books, he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. That's the more you know, baby. But yeah, so it's very interesting to see those things get played out, and like I feel so sorry for the other detective who is pretty much like the protagonist for that part, because he also just gets screwed over. And I'm just like, but it's kind of like those that like, well, of course he did, you know, like he's still like the unluckiest cop in the world. So, any other favorite parts?
Yeah,
Josh.
Go ahead.
Visually speaking, I love when Genesis joins with Jesse. If you look, it's a couple of pages. It's not a full spread, but it's just what it does to his parishioners and then to him, and what you see that visually. Another part, I love the reveal of Cassidy being a vampire. Of like,
that was
being
so cool.
between. It was almost like a commercial break kind of thing where it was like, Tulip being like, Jesse, oh my God, like look over there, and you're seeing and you just get the Jesse kind of like the what the fuck, and then
he's biting
cut to Cassidy ripping the neck out of this guy, and it's like
to heal himself.
I picked that up like a little bit earlier because of when you first get introduced to him, he gets shot in the head and he doesn't do anything, and I was just like, what the hell is that? And then like after that, it's like he's under the covers the entire time. I'm like, there's some There's something going on.
Something's happening right now.
Wrong here. And then I was like,
I spoiled that for myself with the TV show.
With the show.
Oh no.
The TV show, the way they would introduce him in the TV show is a lot of fun too, though.
It's
in the plane. Yeah.
I remember when I was watching, I was like, what the heck is this? And so yeah, it's interesting. But go on, Josh. I'm sorry.
What is his name?
I love the kind of defense mechanism, so to speak, that Jesse has developed in the Duke, his imaginary friend, of like talking to basically John Wayne. Of like, Wayne. I just love that that's how he's able to deal with being in the box, which frightens me so
Not
much.
the real John Wayne. True Grit's John Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just John Wayne. Because the real John Wayne was a racist, misogynist piece of shit. This is the hero from True Grit.
Yeah. The fake John Wayne. So
the one we all like to remember.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I just love that aspect that he has that, and that this comic is a weird Western.
Well,
very.
The thing I think also, I'm just bringing up all these references points. Caitlin talked about it in Cowboy Bebop, and a little bit of thing that she didn't like about it was that like, no matter what happened, these characters could not kind of reconcile themselves and come together. Where here you have a lot of broken people. And like they do find a way to kind of like stick up for each other. Like I think the show, to Corey's point, does it in such a way where Cassidy is just like, I don't know why he likes Jesse so much, but in the book, it's just when it's like, dude, you have the power of God. Like, of course I'm hanging out with you for a little bit. And Tulip and Jesse, like, no matter how much, it's a little bit reminiscent of like the 80s, like macho aggressive relationship of like Romancing in the Stone, Indiana Jones, of like, these people clearly have sexual frustration and tension towards each other, but they're just also angry of the pent up like miscommunication they've had. But then like Cassidy still wants to help out Tulip, like just, because the hell of it. And like those are the things where it's like this band of people that probably shouldn't hang out are
misfits.
Yeah, misfits are sitting in a diner and explaining what happened first. And there's a little bit of this like fun that like, man, how is a preacher, hitman, and a vampire hanging out in a bar, hanging out in a diner, talking about food?
Set up for a joke.
It's fun to kind of like have a little bit of this like Goonies feel to it, where it's man, what are they?
That's a pretty gritty Goonies. Just gonna say.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, the thing is, like, you're not too old to have fun with your characters in a playful manner. And I think Corey likes to revel in that playfulness, that like characters don't have to be, like they can deal with serious stuff, but they don't have to like, the world's terrible and I must fight. This war gets crowded. It's like, dude, man, I gotta kill some people because I'm thirsty or I'm about to die. Or it's like, man, I'm gonna make you shove your own penis in your butthole. Like like that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Oh man.
Poor ass face. Arse face.
His son, the sheriff's son, made me so sad.
Arse face.
Yeah.
He's talking to me. Like, oh Jesus.
Yeah. But
or God, or whatever, Genesis, whatever.
Another kind of favorite part, but just from like kind of I almost want like another comic about this person, even though I kind of don't want to know because
Jody?
he's a terrible person. No, the gunslinger.
Oh
I
yeah.
love the Saint of Killer.
He's gonna come back. Yeah.
Saints.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
He's great. He's a great character.
He's terrifying.
I wish I could tell you about a moment later on in the series that is just so dope. But anyway,
if I'm honest, I would love just a Cassidy spinoff.
Oh yeah,
just everything his entire life before he met Preacher.
Oh yeah,
it's so your thing.
I was
Kiefer Sutherland
to bury the lead. I was more interested in him than any other person in this comic.
That's fair.
Kiefer Sutherland, directed by Joel Schumacher. Look at Corey.
Corey's eyes got so wide.
Not Joel Schumacher though, but like for real, I would watch. I mean, he did Lost Boys, which was a great vampire film. I think I just thought he was so interesting. I would love a spinoff of that and of the gunslinger, the
Gunslingers,
Killer
horrifying,
Saints.
but cool.
So let's bury the lead and do our favorite characters.
Cassidy.
And then so favorite main of the first. Just 2 favorite characters. Fuck it.
Then in that case, it would be Cassidy and the Gunslinger.
Okay, Cassidy and Gunslinger.
In that order.
I'm just gonna go next because mine's a copy and paste. Cassidy and the Killer of Saints. Like I just, anytime either of them are on the page, I'm like,
I know when I got to the end and I was like, oh, he's gone. He didn't come back. I was like, damn it. Got to read more.
Oh yeah.
I'll go next because I see Caitlin's ruminating on it.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'll say Tulip and Cassidy. Like I really wanted to. That's what I would have wanted to see. Maybe not the Preacher book, but like here's the getaway group. Like I like Tulip because there was a sense of moral goodness about her. Of like, hey, you got to do the right thing, but also like.
But also, let's go steal cars and have sex in them.
Yeah, there's that young joyride feel that like it got her to that point because like there's moments where like Jesse is like trying to bring up old memories and she's like, you're not gonna have any of this because she's gonna get what she wants of like the closure she never got. And as someone like me who is tragically single as fuck.
Oh, poor Tom.
I am living. But no. It's. I think it's interesting to see that happen. I don't think there is a glorification of being a victim of like an abusive relationship. There is much more of like no, you're going to fucking answer for what you did now that I got you. And I saved you. I fucking saved you. So at least you can do is tell me what's up. And, like as much as Jesse wants to like hopefully go back to the way things were, like they never can. And I like that Cassidy knows how to press her buttons in that way where it's like he is saying what we all want to say, and if we never had the ramifications of getting slapped in the face or kicked in the nuts, we would say it. But then Tulip is always there to call him out on his bullshit too, where it's like I like the play between the both of them. So Caitlin,
favorite characters.
This is
I got wrapped up in your conversation.
3,
and stopped thinking about
2,
it.
1, go.
So Cassidy, for sure. Just because Cassidy's really cool.
Yeah.
And then my other character that I'm really interested in is Genesis.
Yeah, being the love child of a thing that shouldn't be.
And we don't really get like much about it other than like it is now part of him. But like that is still a separate being. So I'm intrigued about the fact that like that was kind of the castaway from that world that bridges to the castaways of this world. So I'm all about Cassidy and Genesis. That's my picks.
I like.
There you go.
I like.
Cool. Good choices, y'all.
Qualms keeps it 2. Josh, you don't have any?
No, I do have qualms. And this is my qualms only exist on this time through. And I think it's just because I think the last time when I first read it was 15 years ago.
Right.
So when you were 40.
So yeah, now that I'm in my 50s, my sensibilities have changed. And for me, the violence didn't hold up. There were moments that I was like, okay,
yeah,
I get it. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that it's the most violent thing that I've ever seen. It's just like it was often where I was like, okay, I get it.
Welcome to 1995 in the comics.
Yeah,
baby.
Exactly. So,
but also again, it's Garth Ennis thing.
Yeah, it's Garth Ennis.
Violence is a thing.
Read The Boys, which I just finished.
Punisher Max.
Like,
woo,
woo.
Yeah.
So second qualm.
That's my only qualm that I have.
That's it.
Only one.
For me, it's hard to explain this one. I'll say that the volume is in 3 acts, right? So Act 1 is the opening with a lot of the angel and demon and heaven stuff and the Genesis and all that kind of stuff. Act 2 would be the cops and the serial killer, and Act 3 would be the hometown family. And for me, the third act really slowed everything down for me to a point where I wasn't enjoying it anymore as much. I think for me that either needed to come sooner or in the next issue when I cared more about the characters.
Did it feel like filler for you?
It didn't feel like filler, but it felt like it was too too soon. Like if they had brought Thanos in on the second movie, you're like, there's not enough weight for. I just got to know these characters. I don't need them getting retribution for their backstory. I don't feel it yet. I feel like it didn't earn it for me, for my read through. Like it was either I needed that as exposition earlier on, or I needed it like if the teaser for the next volume was this grandma sitting in the shadows and be like, he's come home. And you're like, oh shit, he's come home? What does that mean? Like, so for me, it just
like with witches, I see.
That third act for me was just a bit more work to get through than the rest of the series. And my other, my second qualm I chose was that for me, there was a couple times Custer said a few things about Tulip that made me not care about him. Like I didn't have empathy anymore. Like she's obviously very concerned about him, their relationship, what's going on, herself, like someone's making her a hit person, which is terrifying. And all he can say to Cassidy is 3 nights till I get her in bed. And I was like, you lost me, dude.
That was one thing that I noticed. That was one thing that I noticed on this read through. Where it was like,
And I tried to shake it, but
it continues.
It took a lot of punches out of the effect of him winning for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know. It's
something that I think the TV show tackles in a way where it's like, you can still be cool without being at the expense of women and making them meat puppets kind of thing.
Yeah. So for me, I think that's why I lean towards Cassidy more, is because the more that happened with Custer, the more I was like, bruh, I'm trying to root for you. You got some shit going on. I'm trying to root for you right now. Could at least be humble.
A little.
Sit down, be humble. Kendrick Lamar.
So that narrative of his character really was a turnoff for me.
Kaylin, you want me or you?
You.
Okay. I'm the opposite. I love No, I don't.
Wow. The about beginning, to like turn off and leave the call.
No, the beginning of it felt very slow for me. I felt like it was kind of like a slog, and I was just like, oh my God, get on with it. And I was reading it and I was just like, okay, baby, you're gonna. And so for the third part of when he goes back home, I was just like, now I get it. Like,
that third part is I love it. It's my favorite.
So like, and that's the thing. We're like, it's all good. It's all good, baby. Like, it's because
everyone can have different opinions. It's okay.
Like the whole middle part with the detectives, I was just like, I don't give a shit, baby. And I was like, I want to know what happened to Genesis. I want to know this why did he leave Tulip? Right? Like, I wanted all that shit. And then in the third part, I was like, oh, I get it. And so like, for listeners who like haven't read it and don't care about spoilers, like I would kind of have that ideology inside of just like, oh, like look at what it's trying to do and then see where it lands for you. Because it's book one it's 12 issues of 75 comic books. So obviously there is a lot.
I mean, officially 66 is the Preacher
What was the number you just gave?
And then there's like
12 comics of 75 comics.
Books, volumes.
I'm sorry, guys. 66 issues. This is 12 of them. So obviously there's a lot more because
there we go.
The second thing that I think and this first thing kind of leads into the second thing where it was like, there were kind of these strands that were like, is that going to come back to play? Is Ass Space going to come back? Is the gunslinger going to come back and all that stuff? And they didn't. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, let me see how this runner goes. And I had to really read it a second time over and see like, oh, the real story is just Tulip and Jesse. You introduce these characters that hopefully we'll want to see later on, but those come into it. So like, they're not huge things. It's kind of just saying like, in Tron Legacy, they have this really cool bike and they use it for one scene. And you never see it again. And you're like, hey, just don't get attached to it. It's cool. Like if they made a sequel, guarantee it's going to come back. So like read the second book if you want to see more of those characters, I'm assuming.
I will be.
And those are the only things really for me. At the beginning, it was pretty slow, and then I just wanted more of those things that they introduced at the beginning. Because I felt like I was like, oh, they okay, we're done with that, baby. You know, like I guess this gunslinger isn't a big deal. And then knowing
here's a pretty big deal
the series, like what it's going to go into, and Josh has said, like apparently he becomes quite.
Well, I mean, it's I'm sorry, but before Caitlin goes, it's interesting to. I always find it interesting when we do comic books like this that is a longer series, and we just do the first like
volume
collection or volume. It's an interesting thing. For me, it's almost hard to like judge a whole series by.
Well, we're not judging the whole series. We're judging.
No,
this
I understand
volume.
that. I'm just saying that it's like all the questions that even I have sometimes that I'm like, oh, but wait, that gets answered.
Yeah,
2
I feel like
you're at the
you're like
that.
Just wait, baby.
We have to. It's tough, but someone did put this into here's the first chunk for you.
Yeah,
and so that's what we're grading is this chunk the right thing for us? Should you have included 5 more issues in this volume 1? Should you have done less with volume 1?
Well, and even more fun is that your opinions on things that you consume media-wise can change vastly over a few months or a few years. So,
Corey is the testament
this
to
is
that.
just where we're at right now.
Very much so.
I was gonna say it's kind of like saying like with getting someone interested in Game of Thrones. It's like there's so much, and you could be Corey who still doesn't like it. So that's totally fine.
Sure. Or you could be the other side, like me, who like hated Last Jedi and liked Rise of Skywalker, and then I like Last Jedi and didn't like Rise of Skywalker, and now I've totally done another one where I don't like any of the sequels. I don't like all 3 of them. I think Solo outdid all of them. So, your opinions change.
Here we are.
They do.
So, Caitlin, what are your qualms? 2 of them, baby.
So
up to 2.
I feel like there were multiple things touched on where I'm like, yeah. But it's just that like nobody was completely redeemable.
Redeemable?
Like no one.
Because no one is redeemable, Caitlin. We're all sinners.
And that's why it reminded me of Black Mirror a little bit. Because I'm just like, okay. It just makes you kind of like, because even at the end, when the house is burning and he's like, yeehaw, I murdered everyone that like.
We murdered everyone.
That deserved it. That deserved it. But like, it still didn't really feel like a win because I didn't really feel like I could root for him all the way. Like, that's kind of the complication for me is like, even though I was like rooting for him over them, I still am not really totally rooting for him either.
I think that's a really interesting point because I think that's you engaging with the medium because I think a lot of times media asks us to reward, again, I talked about it, like reward, atrocities with violence and be like, cool, but it's like, but at what cost?
Right.
It's like kind the cost was so high.
It's kind of like the suspension of disbelief, but in a different form of like suspension of redeemable qualities.
Right. And I can't really fully do that.
That's really good.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that was bothering me. And that's what I mean of like, I didn't really want to like this because again, no one's really redeemable in this.
But not even Genesis?
You understand why they're doing it. And yeah, my other thing was actually I was really bothered that Genesis just is gone, basically. Like Jody just gets to say words in red and say things.
Oh, right. That thing, yeah.
Like he just gets to use the cool powers and Genesis is like, I'm just gonna chill back here.
He was using it, but they couldn't use it because God was on their side.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then God said, okay, cool. Now you can use it because I'm not with them anymore because they're terrible people. But I just need them to know like I'm intervening for that moment. Because I was like, that was like, whoa. Is Jody like godless? And then all of a sudden you can't use the word God? Because I was like, this could be kind of cool.
I thought that was cool.
Oh,
I get it.
And then I was like, when Grandma was like,
a little more intricate than that, Tom.
And then Grandma was like, well, God's on our side. I'm like, why? But it brings up the problem with God. The philosophical.
God's not redeemable either in this.
Well, the whole idea of like I do great good, but that allows these inserts of terribleness into the world, so that people can do very, very good things. It's like
bone children in cancer. That's what I was going to say. Bone cancer in children. Same guy. Same guy.
Raising Corey.
Debone children.
Drown your babies.
Children. No. But yeah, that's it. The irredeemable aspect. Did I mention the second one?
Yes.
This is it.
What was it?
The Genesis thing.
Genesis, yeah. Okay, sorry. Because they're not really brought up, I forgot.
Josh, Tom, Corey, and Caitlin. That's the order.
Yeah. So let's see what these qualms have landed us. So So Josh first, baby.
Let's find out.
Yeah, he's got no votes.
Let's go, baby. I got the notes.
This one was really hard because I had new qualms.
That's what she said.
Like if you were talking to me 15 years ago, I'd be like, this is a 5. Now, probably a 4.5.
4.5
for Josh.
There are some things that I would change.
Okay.
But that would
legit.
be based on now.
Right.
Okay.
And what I know
Tom?
now.
All right. I'm gonna say 2 things real quick. I gotta just talk about it.
Uh-huh.
For
Do you have to?
70% of reading this book, this was like a 3.5.
Uh-huh.
And then the last part, I really enjoyed it. And then it turned it into a 3.9.
3.9 for Tom.
3.9.
All right. 4.5, 3.9. I am excited to see where the series goes. I'm going to read the second volume. Because of a few characters. And I want to see that. I want to know what the fuck happens with that gunslinger guy. I gotta know what happens. But my experience reading this was a 3.3.
Wow.
There's a few things in it that I just had trouble digesting.
Look at Kaylin hiding behind the tree.
So that's mine. But I will continue reading this series.
Kaylin.
Much like the season 1 of any of my favorite shows. Maybe just didn't hit the mark. Give it time to expand.
And it's actually not that long, too, if you think about it.
Yeah.
66 issues. Kaylin's
three
a 4.
Three of my favorite shows, their first seasons, I would not recommend on my worst enemies.
What's yours, Kaylin? She's so happy. She's like, hey, no one's getting a shout out today.
I actually had it pretty solidly at a 4.
Oh.
All
You know that I always rate really high on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And even with my frustration with this, I really liked that while in this comic book, they are bashing religion in a way, they're doing it in a way where it's like, but not from this world, in a way. Like it is set in this place, but it feels fantasy. It feels complete fantasy. So it feels like they did everything so well of living in a gray area of like, if this was the case, what then would you do? If you were this terrible person, if you were this irredeemable person, how would you react? And I feel like based on the characters, because they were written the way that they were and they were done very well, it makes sense that they did the things that they did. I'm glad to have read it. I would never have sought this out on my own.
Yeah. To that point, it kind of feels like it's like the GTA, feeling of like you do things in the video game that you would never do in real world.
Never.
But then, like you read these stories and you get a chance to kind of be in their shoes, which is fun.
Yeah. The other reason Caitlin is dancing is because she voted for me as the coach. So she got it right. I think that was part of that dance, was that she was happy that I...
And she's the only one that gets a shout out.
So good. I get a shout out. Corey has to shout me out now.
Caitlin!
Yeah. Da-da-da.
Awesome.
I
Caitlin.
win the video game.
Everybody at home, that has been our episode on Preacher Book 1. Thank you so much for listening or watching if you are on YouTube. And if you're not on YouTube watching, go watch.
What are you doing?
Pause this and start it there.
And get ready for that. Book 2,
but I'm not
Nerd
kidding.
on the podcast.
We'll be back with book 2.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have read Preacher Book 1 or any of Preacher, let us know your thoughts. Reach out to us on that Discord that I was talking about, nerdon.tv/Discord. There is a channel for comics that you can continue the conversation on. We would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, learn me something. Tell me how wrong I am, baby.
Tell me something good or bad. It can be bad. It can be middle of the road.
Educate me, baby.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you are new to Nerd On, check out nerdon.tv. It is our website. It has all the information on everything that we do, all the linky links to all the content
Stuffy
that we
stuffs.
make, stuffy stuffs that we make. Like YouTube, we do have 2 YouTube channels. We do have a Twitch channel. We have all sorts of stuff that we do. So check out that website, nerdon.tv, and there's easy things to click on that you can go boop, boop, boop. Consider joining the Nerd On
How
Nation.
do you do it? Boop, boop, boop. Thank you.
consider joining the Nerd On Nation. Like I have said, it does help us grow. It does help us to create more content, and it does help us to continue getting better, because that's what we want to do. We want to create high quality content.
Growers and showers.
Yeah, we are growers.
We'll be growers and showers.
Just like that.
I'm a grower.
And a shower.
My fault.
No, I'm a grower.
I did this. You see me ashamed.
Do check out
quick.
Do check out nerdon.tv/Patreon. And the Discord again, nerdon.tv/Discord. Share us with your friends, your family, and wherever you listen. Subscribe, rate, and review. That is the end of the spiel. You know the drill. You know the drill. As always, Nerd on.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.